This week there has been much discussion about whether or not we should be using a contact tracing apps which will make use of your location to work out whether you have come in contact with somebody that has been infected with COVID-19. This has been in operation in other places around the world, notably Singapore, but now we're talking about it here. And of course, at the same time, Apple and Google have been working on tools to use their data to engage with contact tracing. But exactly what are the implications should it be unveiled in Australia? Well, to discuss that, we have Tegan Jones from Gizmodo and we have Matt Hopkins from Pedestrian. All right, Tegan, at the point that we're recording right now, where are we at?
Basically, it has come out this week that the Australian government is absolutely looking into bringing out an app of some sort that will allow people to opt in. So it's not forced. You can opt in and basically have your movements traced. So that way, if you come into contact with someone with COVID-19, or if you have COVID-19 and you've come into contact with someone, you'll get that alert, or those people will get that alert so they can then act accordingly. So go into isolation, for example, watch out for symptoms and seek medical attention if needed. What else has also happened this week is that Google and Apple have joined forces to create their own version of this technology, not a dedicated app, but actually built into the API of their system so they can talk to each other. So this sort of technology can then be utilized by places like governments, and then they can build their own apps. The big question around it is really about how it's going to be used and what technology is going to be used. There's mixed reports on that at the moment. So on the ABC, they did say that it was going to be GPS-based here in Australia, whereas Apple and Google are specifically talking about Bluetooth technology, and other implementations that we've seen in Singapore already has been Bluetooth technology. So very different, and it's left a lot of question marks.
So I think there's a pretty clear understanding about how GPS would work, but I do want to understand a bit more how Bluetooth would work.
Let's say, for example, someone has tested positive to COVID-19. Anyone who came into contact with them through those Bluetooth signals can then be pinged. But what's really important about it is that it's anonymous. So you're given a key, and it's only stored on the device like where you've been for, I believe in Singapore, it's 21 days. Apple and Google are looking at about 2 weeks. But it really depends on government implementation. But basically the way it works, it's meant to be completely anonymous, unless, of course, you end up testing positive, and then at least in Singapore you are actually legally obliged to hand over that information over to the government so that they can help with contact tracing. It's unclear how it'll work in Australia as yet.
Matt, there has been some concerns among people about privacy of that data. What are the people's concerns at the moment?
Like the metadata laws that were brought in a couple of years ago, there's concerns around what this could be used for in the future. You're effectively, tracing everybody's movements. You've got the ability to do that. And while they say that it's only going to be for, the duration of COVID-19, even if, I don't know, I'm not even sure if they have said that yet, but I guess the concern is that this can be twisted into used in other things like law enforcement or things like that.
I think that's why I like the Bluetooth technology approach a little better. There seems to be a lot more anonymity around it, and that's certainly how it's worked out in Singapore, and it's certainly how Google and Apple are talking about it. The thing is at the moment is that we don't know who this public sector company or companies that the Australian government are working with to get an app out in the next fortnight. It certainly doesn't sound like it's Google or Apple. So I would really want to know what technology is being used, because especially with Bluetooth, at least it can be that little bit more anonymous. It's not sitting there with satellites going all of the time, being able to track me, Tegan Jones, and where I'm going. They should not have a right to that information unless it becomes absolutely necessary.
How do you feel, Matt?
Me, for example, I live in an apartment building, so what if someone who lives next door to me or lives above me has COVID-19? Am I going to get a false positive because my phone's pinging them and being told that that person's got COVID-19, you need to sort something out? Like, is that going to open up, more problems down the track? Are people going to be going in and getting tested when they don't need to be? If I had some sort of assurance that maybe I could just uninstall the app and it could completely stop tracing me as soon as it's off my phone, then I'd think about it. But I don't think I trust the government to do that. If they can hold on to that kind of tracking ability, they will. You see from the Apple and Google side of things as well that they're keen on hard coding this stuff into the OS, their respective OSs. So at what point are we going to have the freedom to opt out if we do opt in.
I guess part of the good news here is that just this week as well, it was announced that the government, or the New South Wales government at least, is bringing in a new text messaging system for negative results. So if ideally the way that it will work is if you have gone in for a COVID-19 test the same day that it comes back from the lab, which is hopefully also going to be the same day you actually take the test, if you get a negative result, you'll get a text message straight away if you choose to opt in. So hopefully that would alleviate some of the problems and some of the stress on the individual, as well as stress on the healthcare system.
All right, there is lots more of this in the podcast of Download This Show. You can find it wherever you podcast.